going to ask a follow-up question. Does EXPCommercial or the business brokering portion of that have a location where there's a bank of these forms, generic forms that they're listing, or is it all just kind of jumbled in with the commercial real estate?
They're in SkySlope. There is a folder called NationalBusinessBroker. And so that will show up on anybody's, I believe everybody in SkySlope has access to it, or on the commercial side. But there is a folder that says National Business Broker, and all the business broker forms are in there. And I can tell you that most of those business broker forms, there are two listing agreements in there. One does say engagement, and the other one says something else. And I haven't looked in there recently because I use the California Association of Business Brokers forms, but that's what most of those are. Most of those are CAB forms that they just stripped off the CAB heading and the copyright notice on the bottom, on the footer. And they stripped that stuff off and then put EXP's logo at the top. And sometimes they did a good job of removing California and CAB and certain references to California. And in other forms, they really didn't. And so, you have to be careful when using those forms, because that's where they came from. And the one that says listing, so the engagement agreement, the engagement rep agreement is the one that I tell people to use if they're out of state. If they're in California, I tell them just to go to CAB's website and download the correct form. But outside of California, I tell them to use that engagement rep agreement and not the listing, because there is a business listing agreement in there, and I forget the exact name of how it shows up in SkySlope. But if you look down at, I think it's paragraph 28 or something like that, it starts talking about how EXP Business Brokers well, first of all, there is no EXP Business Brokers. That name doesn't exist. Secondly, it starts talking about a franchisor and that all the franchises are independent. EXP is not a franchise. So it's clear that that form came from a franchise, maybe Sunbelt, Transworld. I don't know where it came from, but it came from one of the franchises, and it was not edited very well. And so there's just things in there that don't make any sense because they're completely not applicable to what EXP is. And like I said, EXP Business Brokers is not a valid company. EXP Business Brokers Inc. There's no such thing. So I would just be careful if you're using that form. Try and open it up in Adobe PDF, a full version of Adobe Acrobat, and go in and see if you can edit it yourself or convert it. You can export it to a Word doc and maybe convert it. But, anytime you're doing that, I mean, you're much better off to have an attorney take care of those things for you, because you don't want to be accused of practicing law without a license. And anytime you're removing language from a contract that is not a fill in the blank, as agents, we're allowed to fill in the blanks in most states. I think in Virginia, I saw in the state of Virginia, there on business broker transactions, the broker is not even allowed to fill out the contract for the buyer. That's got to be done by an attorney or by the buyer themselves. So yeah, state laws vary. So just know what your laws are.